Livestream number 11 with Mr. Coleman, the rubbish mechanic. Mr. Coleman is enjoying, I think, a dark fruit cider shandy, and I have this bottle of green smoothie. So that's the thing we're going to be having this evening. Let me just bring it up on my laptop as well so I can keep track of the comments section. We are a little bit early in starting, it's better than being later in starting. The topic for this evening's discussion is actually, well, how do we put this? It's very, very rare makes of car, like the Lonsdale and the Sal Penza and things like that. You know, very, very peculiar things. The Lonsdale is, I think, the rarest car I think I've ever seen in terms of a make. It was only made between 1982 and 1984. It was literally just two models of the Mitsubishi segment that was being made in a place called Lonsdale in Australia, and that was it. The Sal Penza was kind of a sort of equivalent to that as well. That was a Mazda 323, but a previous generation made in South Africa. Yeah. I think Sal Penzas actually do exist, around places, but there we go. Oh, we've got some comments already, Mr. Coleman.
Wow.
Good afternoon from Lakeland, Florida.
Good afternoon.
Yes.
How's the weather over there? I heard you've had a bit of a storm.
Yeah, I hear it's not great out in Florida at the moment, which is a shame.
You'll get to more family in about 12 hours time.
Charleston.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Coleman was showing me just a bit earlier on the fact that some of his family own a big sort of I suppose they call it a shop in America, but it's what do you call it here? Like a garage.
Garage, yeah.
Yeah. So there's my chat just come up there. There we go. Chat is actually working for once, which is nice. So Paulie Gauthier says, "Good evening, gentlemen." Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
And Agent Barry, that guy from SETI Alpha 5. Hello, sir. How are you? Very well, thank you, sir. Another viewer from stateside. And Rich, how's the evening, chaps? Evening, sir. Yeah. So yes, we've mentioned the Sal Penza, the Lonsdale, and now Mr. Coleman and I were discussing something earlier on today. Yesterday, I drove the BYD Seal U, which is a car that I don't think most of you would have actually heard of. Possibly we might be seeing some more BYD on the channel. I don't know. I spoke to a lady from BYD, and she said that you might be invited to something more of them. I don't know. That might be anyone I ever drive. I'm not sure. But the videos on the channel as of the MG HS plug-in hybrid, the brand new one. That's actually a brand new car. The one I filmed. It's just come out. And weather yesterday was terrible. It wasn't quite as bad as it used to be in Florida. Kevin Hawthorne says it's stopped raining now. We had a lot of rain from the hurricane. It wasn't great though, and also I almost died when someone else who was on the SMMT day, who had a Maserati, decided it would be a fantastic idea to almost kill me when coming around a junction when I was driving the Kia Picanto. Yeah, so there we are. Psycho63 says, "Oh, you're quite an advanced channel member. We've got that icon there. That's one of the sort of later ones. That's the Sunny Traveller. Oh, Sunny Traveller, fantastic car actually. It doesn't look like much, but you drive that with a GA16 engine, 5-speed manual. Excellent.
Okay.
Yeah. So Psycho63 asks, hi gentlemen. I'm missing Rusterville again. How are you doing it? Yes, sir. Mr. Coleman unfortunately cannot make it. But I will be there. This is a good question, sir. This is one of yours, sir. Agent Barry, that guy from SETI Alpha 5. Thoughts on the XJ6 or 12, the scene of the Equalizer?
Yeah.
I think one of them like a Series 3, one an XJ40. I can't remember now.
That long since I've watched that film, I can't actually remember.
Because it was. Edward Wood wasn't Ed Woodward, I think, being like a troubleshooter in America. Was it late 80s?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
I think it was about 87, 88, something like that.
Yeah, I think one of them's a Series 3, one's an XJ40, as far as I remember.
I think so.
Can't remember.
That long since I've watched it.
Yeah, but I mean, you like those, don't you, sir? You like both of those.
Yeah. Yeah. XJ12 would be nice.
Have you ever owned an XJ12, Mr. Coleman?
No, my dad has, and if I owned an XJ12, I would do exactly what my dad did. First, to literally drive it home from the person you bought it off, put it straight on the ramp, take that stupid automatic gearbox out and fit 3 pedals and put a Mustang gearbox in it.
Excellent, sir. What about changing the spark plugs, sir?
If it's got air conditioning, it's difficult, but if not, they're not too bad.
Is it like a couple of days doing spark plugs a day, sir?
Yeah, it can take as long as you want with them, but it is a good 6 or 7 hour job to do it. And I do actually have all the tools in the workshop outside for changing the spark plugs in them.
Excellent. Didn't your father like work on the development of the XJ40?
Yeah, right the way through, from start to finish.
Wow, and the facelift as well?
Everything.
Yeah.
X300, 308.
I honestly can't believe when I drove the XJ40 what a nice car it was.
Yeah.
I mean, people complain a lot about them and say they weren't necessarily that reliable. I know some of the early ones had sort of faults or whatever, but actually they're not that expensive.
No.
Like the one that I drove, like both of them you see in the video, both of them under £5,000.
Mm.
I think you struggle to like find too many that were over that unless they're like concours.
Yeah, they are rare. The thing is with the XJ40 and that, it's the same with not lucky, a lot of cars, particularly that period, is that you've got to, look after it and find one that has been looked after. Because they've all gone through a phase where they're worth £500,
Yeah.
and now they're on the way back up again. You've got to find somebody that's not, abused it and kept it running nice through its cheap phase, and now they're on the way back up again.
Yeah, I mean, like anyone that's got like horrendous rust, like
Yeah, you just don't bother with them.
engine faults, electronic problems.
Yeah.
But there's just loads of others. There's tons of them that have been looked after by the people in the Jack Enthusiast Club, aren't there? That's the sort of place you want to start, isn't it?
Yeah,
in a club.
Yeah.
The one I drove with the beige leather interior was really nice. The only thing I would change about it is I want one with cruise control, because that one didn't have cruise control.
Not
part-
many of them did.
Yeah, I can't remember what spec. I think the Sovereigns might have got it. I've seen them with cruise control.
Sovereigns and the V12s did.
Yeah, so it may have to be a Sovereign, or I think maybe a Gold model. I think those are similar to the Sovereigns. Sport's good. I've been offered to go actually, and it's a sport. The sport in the video is now ready for me to go. It's just that car is like almost at the end of Kent. And I mean, driven all the way to West Cornwall and back this week.
I nearly bought an XJ40 Sport before I bought the blue 940.
Yeah, but there's
second car, but I
big difference with that was it had a manual gearbox.
Yes, that was why I was interested.
It's
in
a rare old thing. It was a 3.2.
It was a 4 litre.
40 Sport. Wow.
4 litre Sport, factory manual, and it was all there. The only thing that I didn't that put me off of it is it had a couple of rust blisters at the base of the rear screen, which is a bit of a problem on XJ40 because it was rusty there, it's rusty on the boot floor.
Is that a common fault with them? I think both of them, like I saw both of them, chap who's got Stuart owns both of them. I don't think either of them were that bad, but the one I drove, the sort of purpley coloured one, was almost immaculate. It's beautiful. The Sport needed a bit of work, but that's also a very nice car. So I'll do it at some point, but yeah, the Sport probably has slightly firmer suspension. One thing I noticed with the standard one, the 3.2, did roll a little bit.
Yeah, they do.
But it's not quite as bad as in the BYD CLU, which was.
That sounds like something you'd wash your rear end with in a posh hotel. I've got to say, it sounds ridiculous.
The thing is, it's actually quite a good car, the BYD CLU. Like, kind of, it just. I don't think the ride and handling's set up properly for UK yet. Like, it's like the first generation MGHS is like that. The second one's come out. That's a much better car because the ride and handling is so much better. The CLU, I just don't think they've engineered properly the UK roads. I mean, it will be probably better in the future. It's just at the moment, I'm a bit fussed about the way cars drive, and you're even more fussy than I am about the way cars drive, and so neither of us probably buy one. But the specification, things like that, the comfort and the build quality is very good. But the XJ40, I would maybe want to try a Sport and see if it's a little bit firmer.
Yeah.
Because that would probably be a good compromise, wouldn't it?
Yeah, the only thing they did on these, on the Sports and the supercharged ones, to make them not have so much body roll, is just put a thicker anti-roll bar on the front and the back.
Yeah, because you could get XJR, couldn't you?
Yeah, and it's not too much of a job to put a Sports anti-roll bar onto the other ones. I've done it in the past.
Yeah, I mean, for me, so it'd be like, I don't know, a dark green 3.2 or 4 litre Sovereign with a beige leather interior.
Yeah.
I mean, that would do me fine. And the lovely smoke rear lights.
Yeah, that's a nice one. That's the bit that's what I like on the XJ40. They are nice.
It's beautiful, yeah.
Drink.
And like, I have some mono wiper action as well. Yeah, Paulie Galtieri. Thing is, it's not just me you got to convince. You got to convince my lady wife, and lady wives don't really like kind of old, complicated cars very much. They're not really into that sort of stuff. They tend to want you to spend the money on, I don't know, the kitchen or a holiday or something. That's what they tend to do.
I don't have that problem.
No, you don't have that problem, sir. When you want to go on holiday, you just go on holiday. That's the thing. Richard Hart says, up and I just want to get Russell. Yeah, be sure to see the Honda Accord there. It's a nice car, that. Drove that in 2021. Tax says, I like the reviews of Morris Minor. I have a 63 four-door saloon. Excellent. Yeah, I'm convinced that I should see if I can find a Minor that has an all-cylinder mesh 5-speed gearbox and then the Marina servo-assisted discs. If I had one of those, I think that I'd be very happy. The other two I drove, I just find them a little bit scary because my mother had a Minor, and loads of people, I'm sure his parents and grandparents had Minors. My mother had one. They just got used to it. Stuff like that's a little bit too old for me in terms of being comfortable driving it. The sort of next generation of cars like Marina and things like that, I didn't have a problem with driving Marina. I mean, they're not the best cars, but they're alright. It's just, the Momenji Midget was even more terrifying for some reason. That was even worse, but it was a bit powerful. Paulie Galtieri says the Getrag manual gearbox is very desirable in the XJ Sport.
It is.
Yeah. Have you ever done a conversion of one of your own cars for that? Auto to manual?
Yeah.
Which one would you do?
The one I did was it was a car that I owned that was automatic. It was a 3.2 Sport.
Was it like for X308?
No, it was a 40, XJ40.
Oh, right.
And my good friend Martin ended up buying it, and I had a rusted out 2.9 manual.
You just slot it in.
Yeah, and everything's just pretty much straight swap.
Excellent. 3 pedals and lots of fun.
Yeah, it brings those engines alive, because that horrible automatic gearbox that's in them needs 77 horsepower to run it. That's before it even makes it to the prop shaft.
I can't imagine what 2.9 auto's like.
Yeah, they're all right. The 2.9, I've always said the 2.9 XJ40 would be my second choice.
After the 4 litre Sport.
After the 4 litre Sport, purely because those engines, those 2.9 engines, basically it's half of the V12. It's a really smooth, balanced engine that's got more torque than the 3.2.
That's strange.
And they just don't go wrong at all.
They're towing chain, aren't they?
Yeah. And all Jag engines are.
Yeah, I don't think they've ever done a camber engine.
No.
Because even when they had the Ford V6 and the X-Type and the S-Type,
They're all chain.
they don't have a camber in them.
No Jag has ever had a camber.
Yeah. I imagine they just said, we took one look at it and said to Ford, like, we don't want this, we need to re-engineer it, and so we did.
Well, the Ford Mondeo V6 is a chain engine as well.
Is that a chain engine too?
Yeah, they're all the same. All
Right,
the
okay.
same.
That Monteo ST24, the ST200 I drove, that was pretty good. The 220, sorry, not 200, it was a Mark III 220.
Yeah.
That was quite a good car, but I couldn't help thinking I wanted a gear. I wanted a gear one of those, a Gear X, obviously with the automatic gearbox, because as we know, the manual gearbox V6 Mark III Mondeos
They are expensive to replace the clutch in them.
very expensive with a clutch, so just have buy an automatic one. But yeah, it's pretty nice. Psycho63 asks, has Mr. Coleman still got the Alpha 166?
No.
That was, when did you sell that? It was a long time ago now.
May 2022 or something like that.
Didn't you buy the Jeep?
I bought the Jeep, yeah.
Yeah. Which I enjoyed having going that actually. Just to be, I remember, we were on a motorway and the best fuel economy ever was on motorway downhill at 23 miles per gallon.
At 56.
Yeah, 56 miles an hour. So don't buy an XJ Cherokee 4 litre if you want to save fuel.
Well, yeah, you just don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously you can buy one if you just got to make sure that you can run it. So Agent Barry says he sold his Trans Am. Okay, he made a profit onto it, which he's looking to sink into something else. Excellent. Something else that we enjoy being Burt Reynolds. Polygon 2 says the XJ40 Daimlers had LSD as standard. Did they?
They did, yeah.
I wonder why that was.
I don't know. A lot of the Daimlers, particularly when, like I say, when they're going through the 500 quid phase, those banger racers always wanted to try and get over the Daimler one because they had a limited slip diff.
Is that actually worth more than the car then?
The LSDs are worth a lot of money, and there's 2 sets of gears you could have for the LSD. I think one was 3.96 and the other one, which is the one you want, and the other one in the later ones, I think it was 3.28. And they're still a good diff, but yeah, the higher geared one's better.
Yeah, I like just Daimlers in general. They're more my kind of cars. I just forgot that actually, I presume I'm not into double six. I mean, double six is actually really rare anyway. They're 93, 94 only, aren't they?
Yeah.
So you'd be looking, if you wanted a Daimler X-Ray40, you'd be looking at presumably available at the 3.6 to 4 litre only.
Yeah.
That'd be me. That'd be a kind of the sort of thing I'd like. But they're quite rare. I've not seen many Daimler X-Ray40s.
Not many.
I imagine most people took them for racing, didn't they, back in the day?
Yeah, and the thing is with the Daimler ones, because a lot of them had the digital dash and stuff in them as well, the LCD display used to break down and short the entire electrics out to the inside of the car.
So that's the end of the car,
That's the end of the car, yeah.
Yeah, so you probably want to go for the 4 litre one that have the normal dash in it. Probably want to go for one of those.
Yeah.
I can't remember if the Daimlers had they call them the cinema screen lights. Do we have those ones?
Yes, they did. Yeah.
They say a lot of them probably been changed though to the quad headlamps by now.
Yeah, the cinema screen ones. The thing is with those is the light output you got out of them was fantastic, but the chromium plating on the inside of the actual reflector used to go yellow. It used to look all nicotine stained, and it used to fail MOTs. And so it was easier just to put
quad lights
in it, because there's thousands of them lying in scrapyards.
Yeah, I mean there's probably quite a few of them still now, aren't there?
Yeah.
Both the ones I filmed that day, the 3.2 and also the 4 litre Sport, they both had the quad headlamps on them. So Tax says, what do you think on the Triumph Stag? Lots of horror stories online early to production, but it seems mostly well sorted. That's pretty much it. Like I drove a Stag last year. The owner had it since 1979. Isn't that amazing? Like he'd had it the 45 years now. It's a 72 automatic one, and he sorted it so well. Like he fixed all the problems, and it's in enthusiast ownership. And you can buy a Stag for £5,000 if you really want to buy a Stag for £5,000. Usually those have say the 2.5 straight to 6 Triumph engine in them, or sometimes an Essex V6 in them.
Yeah.
I've got a friend, he's called Chicks. He's got a 3.3 litre Essex engine Stag, and actually it's not bad. It's a bit easier to look after and things like that. But if you want like a really nice original one, like the one it's called Mark, the chap who owns the white one I drove, then you'll be looking sort of £12,000-15,000. And a lot of you do need one that's been sorted. But the thing is, the ones that still exist and running well, they have had things done by now, because we're actually finished about 77, and it's been a long time since then. And now the kind of nice ones are worth some money, so people are looking after them. There's actually grotty ones, and you probably don't want to touch one of those because they've still got things going on. I mean, you don't want horrendous rust, and because they've got the sill trims on them. Like not all the tanks have sill trims, but you see more of them increasingly that have the sill trims on them. I think they only were on some of the later ones. I don't think the early ones had them. They might be hiding sort of nasty stuff under there, particularly because you don't need an MOT on a Stag anymore. I'd probably advise you to have one. I mean, Mr. Collins Granada doesn't need an MOT now, he still has one.
I still do it myself every year.
Still has one. That's one of these things. I mean, if you can find a well sorted one, you don't mind the light steering, because the steering is quite light when you go fast. If you don't mind that, then actually they're not too bad. I found it a nice car. I was just really surprised how light the steering was when you went faster. You need to get a decent one that's been well looked after. I mean, you probably want to pay a bit more to get a good Stag. But I'm surprised how many I see at shows. They're everywhere, aren't they? Yeah, they're everywhere. Pluto Motors Blackpool says, good evening. Good evening to you, sir. Richard Hart says, is the sunny on the road?
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Coleman has been a very, very, very busy boy recently. He's been incredibly busy, and he's just not had the time to do it. The engine actually that's going into the car is
I've built
getting,
it, it's done,
Yeah.
it's ready to go in. The
Just the
physically
time.
finding the time at the workshop where nobody else is on the ramp, where I can dedicate a day to it, is proving impossible because, like I say, very busy with work. I've not been very well the last couple of months as well, and yeah, so it's here, it's fine, it's going nowhere, and when it's done, it's done. That's the best I can say on that.
yeah, I mean, there would be some things I need to sort out myself. I mean, one of the things I'm going to do is take the stereo out.
Yeah,
Now, Mr. Bristian used the stereo as it was because he had some extra speakers in it. But because he's taken speakers, which is fine, they weren't part of the car or anything, he's put them in his other car. I'm going to have to get some new speakers in it. And also get a stereo that's like easy to use, like with Bluetooth and things like that in it. It's easy enough. It's a single DIN unit. It's not a problem. I won't throw it away. I will keep the engine. So we'll keep the stereo. The engine we might keep for like sitting there. My engine's fine.
well, like I said, what we can do is once that old engine's out and that, I can get it back here. We can film video, and we'll have a good hour video, and I will take the engine to bits for you.
Yeah.
And show you exactly what's going on with it.
Which is number 2 cylinder, isn't it?
Yeah, it's crank. So
Yeah. So the cylinder head we know is sort of good. The gearbox is also good actually. One that was in the car is a problem, but we were very blessed. Like through the Nissan Sunny Facebook group, was it Datsun Facebook group? Both of them were in. Someone just said, I've got a complete '88 Sunny
yeah,
with the E series engine in it. It's a 1.6 manual. Do you want the engine?
yeah,
And he wasn't too far away, so Mr. Coleman very, very kindly went up and found it. And
Yeah.
the engine that's going to go into the car is a lower mileage engine, the one that's come
Yeah.
out.
yeah. And I took the engine out complete with the gearbox, everything. So.
Yeah. So it might need a little bit of fettling to get it in, but it's
Yeah.
a direct swap engine. It's not the 1.3, which would have been fine. That would have gone in as well.
Yeah.
But that has even less power. You know, the 1.6 E series only generates 86 horsepower when it was new, and that's right. It's PS as well. It's a little bit less than that for BHP. So they weren't the fastest. There were also 2 other 1.6 engines, completely different. There was a CA16 engine with a Bluebird,
Yeah, which is the best engine.
which was in one of the was in like the sportier ones. And then you could also get towards the end you get the GA16 12 valve, which again is a fantastic engine. GA16s, I'm very, very fond of those. GA14s. The same engine is in High Peak Autos. Chap Matt, he's got 3 NXs. He's got 300 NXs, and they're the GA16 engine. And I haven't driven the 100 NX. They're fantastic. The only problem with 100 NX is I just find it a bit cramped. Like getting in and out of them, you tend to wear the seat belts and things like that. Getting in and out of them. I prefer the standard M14 Sunny or the Sunny Traveller. They're virtually the same car, but the late M13s also had the GA16s in them as well. So we've got the engine, and there are a couple of other things. The bumper needs attention because it's got tape on it at the moment.
Yeah.
We all do something about that. One of the rubber seals on the door needs
I
fixing.
can sort that. The bumper, I'm going to do kind of a temporary repair on it, so you
Yeah, that's
can,
fine.
we can sort that out. But yeah, when say if I can get the Sunny done over the next month or so, great. And can run it whenever, and then over Christmas or the spring or something, we can get the bumper off and get Lady to repair it for me.
The thing is, we've also got a complete second bumper with that car as well. We've got a second bumper for it. If we want to use it, we don't necessarily need to, but we have got another one. But yeah, it's going to be fixed. It's just a question of sort of the time. I'm looking forward to it. My lady wife might even drive it. She gets a bit funny about the really old stuff, but it's so easy to drive. You've got to deal with the auto show a little bit. It needs a couple of pumps sometimes.
Just one.
But apart from that, it runs okay. Apart from the horrendous rattle of death when it gets warm. That's just the biggest problem. I mean, it'll probably drive down to the yard to be slotted in.
That's what I'll do. Because when I get the okay to actually do it and I'm feeling a bit better,
Yeah.
I'll just ring you up, put some tax on it so I can drive it to the yard. And then it won't come out of the yard till it's got its new engine in it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can still drive about sort of 4 or 5 miles in it. It's okay.
Yeah, it'll be fine. It probably won't even blow up, but it will do eventually. That's if I don't blow it up on the way to the yard.
Don't blow it up. It's
Wink, wink, nod, nod.
Yeah, exactly. Because we remind you about Sunday Head at some point. Because Sunday Head's perfect. It's perfect on that. Richard March says, good evening, sirs. Good evening to you, sir. Polygon says, did you enjoy your time with Mr. Coleman's V90? I did. We went all the way to Derbyshire in it. That's where I filmed the Simcas.
Yeah.
I have to say that the V90 was considerably more enjoyable to drive than either of the Simcas. Simcas were fun for a short time, but particularly the fact that the Simca Mia 1000, it was very difficult to drive.
Mm-hmm.
They've got the right-hand drive ones have a really angled driving position. They don't have a brake servo, and the gearbox it's in the back is all stiff and horrible, and it was really noisy. Like you go deaf in the because it's Rally 2, it's all stripped out. It's an amazing car. It's really rare. It's a rare car. Like, be offered a Rally 2, it's just you don't get offered Rally 2, and then the 1100, which is a really advanced car when they came out. I mean the one I drove was 10 years after they were launched, so it felt a bit old-fashioned by 77. But they just don't see them. Like no one's got any of these Simcas, so it was great. But driving around in that, and I took my uncle out, and actually we went out in the Peak District in it, and it's just a really nice kind of drive. Like it handles really well. It's really comfortable. The stereo's good. The only thing you've got to watch is like there's no parking sensors on it, so I was just reversing to a space on my uncle's house. I almost hit the car behind because it didn't beep at me. I mean, if you're being sensible, you can see out the tailgate. The window's big. It's just I forgot there wouldn't be parking sensors. Yeah. Fortunately, nothing happened because my lady wife had shouted at me when I was about to hit the car behind. But that was the only problem you have. And also, it's just a larger car, and you've got to watch the fuel and make sure you put Momentum 99 or something else in it. But it's good. It's a fantastic car. I really enjoy the late 960s and the V90s and the S90s, as did Mr. Coleman and his family, because that came actually from his brother.
Yeah.
And you've both had them previously, haven't you?
Yeah. I had my black one, which you reviewed many years ago. I had that nearly 12 years.
That was a fantastic car, that.
Yeah.
Such a nice car. The only problem was the driver's seat didn't move, did it?
No, it actually broke a couple of days prior to you doing it, but it broke in my position, so that's why I didn't do anything about it.
I mean, you were fine. You know, I just drove like that. It was fine. One thing I would say about those is it's kind of like an alternative to like an E34 or E39 5 Series.
Yeah.
They sort of remind me of where they drive a little bit like that, but of course you get more space.
Yeah.
And also it's a Volvo, not a BMW.
Best way for me to describe I like those cars is it's like driving an XJ40 estate.
Yeah, I feel pretty handle a bit differently, don't they?
Yeah, but the quality of the wood and everything that's inside, the comfort, the power, it's all there.
It's good. Like it's also cruise control works, and it's a really good motorway car as well. It's perfect. The only thing I had to be careful of was sometimes parking. That was about it. This is an interesting question. Or said 30 times an evening Sid. Tax says, do you think the classic car market bubble has burst since coronavirus and our prices on the way down? The only thing you have to do with that is to watch the auction videos that I do every single month, both at Barron's and now latterly this actual week at Eubanks, where I was invited to go this week. I couldn't believe some of the prices of some of the cars. Like there was, for example, a Rolls-Royce Silver Cloud there, and it was estimated about £20,000. It was a immaculate long wheelbase 65 Silver Cloud, and there's a gentleman who watches these videos, who is an expert on the older Rolls Royces and Bentleys, and he said he couldn't believe what it was going for. And also there's loads of other stuff there as well. There's, for example, there's a Van der Pla Princess 4 Litre R for about £2,000.
Yeah.
Bear in mind, it needed some work and stuff, but they're not expensive either. There were tons of MGBs around for like under 5,000. You want an MGB?
I've got Van der Pla 4 Litre engine at the yard.
Yeah, I don't know if it needed one. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to start it or anything. I remember the three that I drove there. I drove the S124 Mercedes, which is a bit sort of worn, but it was still good fun. The BMW 6 Series, I cannot believe on the E63s how cheap they are. Like they are well under £5,000 for a car like the one that's there. It's a lot of cars like that. Minis, there were two Minis there, and the Mayfair one, it was a bit rusty and stuff, but I couldn't believe that actually the Mini prices have also fallen, as well as everything else. And Jaguar E-Type prices have fallen. A lot of things have. There's lots of cars at Barron's that just sit there for months because People don't want to buy them. They sit there and prices drop and drop and drop. So I think also we're coming into the autumn now, and prices for classic cars used to be higher in the summer.
Yeah.
That's when they used to be higher was in the summer. I'm not even sure if that's true anymore actually. So unless you're talking about things like a Renault Clio Williams or a Subaru Impreza WXSTI, something like that, or any of the Cosworths, any of those, like the price is still rising.
Yeah.
And it's to do with the sort of demographic of the people who are there, like things like E-types, MGBs, things like that. They tend to be owned by older people, whereas with the things like the RS Turbos and the Cosworths, you're talking people who may be in their 40s, 50s, 60s, who actually have a bit of money. Remember those cars from kind of their youth, and they want them. They've got this money, and they will just pay whatever they want to. So RS Turbos, particularly the Sierra Cosworth hatch, the RS 500s. They're stupidly overvalued at the moment.
Ford tax.
Yeah. Same thing with the Mark and Mark II Escort 2 doors, as Mr. Corbin tells me now. There are more Mexico's registered now than they made, which means that not all of them are real.
Yeah.
I saw a really nice restored 1300E 4 door actually, Mark 1. So, yeah.
The RS 1800. Mark II that's on eBay for sale at the minute.
How much is that?
£165,000, and it's unrestored.
I don't think we're going to be buying that, are we, sir?
No.
No.
I wouldn't give you 165 quid for it.
The thing is, I always think of the Escort as a similar class to like a Marina.
Yeah.
And, you know, Marinas, they are going up in value, but the comparable Marina and Escort, the Escort, it might be a slightly better car, but they're really both quite archaic in the engineering, aren't they? They're not that advanced. They're nothing like what other people are trying with front wheel drive, and they're not Alpha or anything like that. I'm sure, like, you know, 1300E, I saw the 4 door of it. It was beautiful. It was a restored 4 door one, and that stuff was a bit different because mostly people just want to make Mexico replicas. But it's a really nice one, but I don't think necessarily they are worth really the money that people want for them.
No, they're not.
The RS1800 100.
I said there's a car from that period that you can get, which is far better than any Escort Mexico or RS2.
What? HSR?
No.
Oh, really? What's that?
An Avenger Tiger.
Oh, I like Avengers very much. They're really rare Avengers. They're stupidly rare. Like the one I drove, which car journey had, was good. It was a Chrysler badge, a '79, and I really enjoyed it. I want to drive other Avengers, but I can't find any to drive. I see them occasionally at shows, but they're not very common. Whereas you go to a show and you're tripping over in some cases, but even one at Enfield, you're tripping over Mark 1, Mark 2 Escorts. They're everywhere. But yeah, Chrysler Avenger, I think, was, in terms of the Viva HC, the Escort, the Marina, and the Avenger. The Avenger's a better car out of all of them, isn't it?
Yeah.
The Viva HC, oh my gosh. I know, like, a lot of the people in my family had the Vivas. My parents had one, my grandparents had one, my uncle had one. Like, a lot of people had them, but they're not very good cars, the Viva HCs.
No.
They're very primitive.
You know what HC stands for, don't you?
Highly corrosive?
The hopeless class.
Yeah, I've never been in a car that leaned as much as an HC Viva.
Yeah,
I went round a roundabout, average car doing 15 miles an hour, and it sort of listed like a rolling ship. It was scary.
Like a nun carrying a mattress.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Whereas Marina handles better than a Viva HC. It absolutely does. Like I don't think personally Marinas are that bad. Like there's much worse stuff I've driven than a Marina. They're not the best or anything. Like an Avenger comparison to a Marina, there's no comparison. But I don't think they're that bad. Anyway, what we were talking about? Oh yes. Yeah, so that's about the auction prices. We'll continue to monitor them. I mean, I've been told by Eubanks that they've got another sale coming out later in the year, so might go to that and drive some more cars.
Yeah.
It'll be good as well. But yeah, certain cars, Clear Williams, stuff like that, they're really, really quite expensive. But a lot of those, of course, traditional classics are on the way down now. Said 3300 says, what do you think of the Daihatsu move? Well, there'll be no budget reviews at some point, we'll see that. It was very slow. At 0 to 60, you think in 22 seconds. 42 horsepower with a 3-speed auto. And the aerodynamics of a Wendy house. Mr. Coleman's not a fan.
No.
Not really. The Grand Move, I think, is probably a better car. It's a bit more conventional. You don't also necessarily feel like actually everyone's looking at you as well when you're driving that, as opposed to the normal Move. I was very self-conscious driving that.
It looks like one of those things that you put your cat in to take to the vets.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's a very interesting car. Like the space inside is amazing. Like you can wear like a top hat in there if you really want to. And actually, it's all right to drive. It's just a little bit slow. Pretty much about Paul says, I like the Van der Pla 4 litre R. £2,000 is cheap. Yeah, the bodywork wasn't very good. There was a bit of rust on it and things. The interior looked okay. Didn't look too bad. I mean, it's on the sales on 2nd October. So if you want to have a look at that, it's on the Eubanks website. 5.4 pot says, good evening, says. What a surprise! I should be at Russellville in the S60 tomorrow. Yes, the S60 2.2 litre turbo. Excellent. We like a nice 5-cylinder Volvo engine, don't we, Mr. Coleman? Nice 5-cylinder Volvo engine. So, Paul says, Mr. Coleman's experience of removing the trim panel below the glove box of the XJ40 together with the electrics and the 3 fuse boxes.
Yeah, I'm good at removing them.
What about putting them back, sir?
In the skip. You could take out, put a roll cage in it.
You don't, sir, because we're going on the track, are we, the XJ40? Paulie says, I love them and miss them. Yes, I think a lot of people are quite fond of those. Psycho63, yes, I've noticed the crazy auction price of classic Fords. Yeah, those are the ones for some reason, more than anything else, are going crazy. I think even like a Chevette HSR is not as valuable as a Mexico.
No.
And the Chevette HSR, in terms of the engineering behind it, it's leagues ahead, really.
Yeah.
Much sort of different, really. Which I used to know a Van der Pla 4 litre where I lived. I think it cost about £500 in the mid-80s.
Yeah, that's probably.
Yeah, they call them in the bang racing community anything like it's called a Westie.
Yeah, it's a Westie.
It's based on a Westminster, so all 3 variants of Wolseley as well.
Yeah,
and actually,
and
yeah,
anything 6-cylinder Farina is called a Westie.
Yeah, and there's some chaps who still race for Westies, aren't there?
Still, a lot of the old boys and stuff like my old man and a few friends and that. You know, they are good. Even the Rovers, the big P5s and P5Bs and all that kind of stuff. They have got a bit of a following on that. They're nice cars on the road, but they're also nice cars when they're at the end of their life.
Yes, of course.
And
yeah, because before the Granada and Cortina started dominating banger racing, the others were the Farina 4-cylinders like the Cambridge and the Oxford, and the Westies, weren't they?
Yeah, well, the Cambridge, the Oxford, and all that kind of stuff. If you're going around calling them the Westies, they're just simply called A60s.
Yeah, A60. Because they did make an A55 Mark II, but they only lasted for 2 years. But all the rest of them, right up to 71, they stopped making that shape. Were based on the A60, weren't they? And it's called, I discussed this earlier on. There is a very rare variant. It's called the Riley Riviera. I didn't know it existed until today.
Yeah.
It looks like a 460X, that's what it's based on. But there are some changes, and one of the changes on the Stage 2 models you can get was Stage 1, 2 and 3 Rivieras. You could get servo-assisted disc brakes on them, which I would just instantly want to put in one of those, because I gather the brakes are terrible on them. Real drum, I think, with no servo. A big car like that, it's scary. I've seen the body roll on them as well, which
Hilarious.
Yeah, it's crazy. So that's interesting. Sid Federer says my Daihatsu Grand Move is a 2-tone and gets some looks. It's not fast. 0 to 60 in 12 seconds with a 4-speed auto 1.5 engine. Well, considering the Move is an 850cc engine and does 0 to 60 in 22 seconds with a 3-speed auto, that's like a sports car. They're not very fast, those. Obviously, there's a huge to call them. How many Senator B 3 litre 24 valves are left?
I'd say about 30, 35.
There's not loads though.
There's not loads, no. I miss mine. And they are fantastic cars, they are. And I don't think I've ever heard anybody actually say anything bad about them, because they are, apart from rust issues, which is fair enough, there's not a lot to go wrong with them. Really well built car, very fast, very reliable, cheap to fix. Yeah, great.
And the rust is in the bucket, isn't it? That's why I go.
They did. They rust in the rear arches and the rear subframe mounts. That's kind of repairable if the bulkhead's gone on them.
In the bed.
Yeah, yeah, and it was more affected more the Senators and the Monzas that did, but it did happen to some of the earlier Senator Bs.
I like the Monza very much.
Yeah, so
Not-
do I.
It's such a nice car. I mean, I've seen a few nice ones. They're not as expensive as you probably think the Monzas. Maybe a nice one's about 10.
Yeah, the thing is with the Monzas and the Senator A's is, believe it or not, he's actually getting parts for them because they are an absolute sod to find parts. Even 15 years ago when I had my Senator A,
You couldn't find a clutch for the manual gearbox, could you?
no, and yeah, that proved a right pain. Rear suspension, you got no chance for him, whether it's Monza or Senator A. You know, buy bushes and stuff, but replacement arms and springs and cook shocks, bearings, discs, they're not out there.
You'd have to buy a spares car, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You'd have to do that. It's a shame. Plymouth Blackpool says the Vauxhalls tend to be always underappreciated compared with equivalent Ford.
Yeah.
Vauxhalls are usually rarer, yeah. And like with the Chevettes, like you compared with, I don't know, well, Escort or Fiesta, they rival both of them. You don't see many Chevettes at all.
No.
The last one I saw actually, apart from one I drove last year at British Car Journey, was in Cornwall while I was doing a job on Monday. I saw a 1982 bright green hatchback GL Chevette. It's bright green. You've got a picture of it somewhere. Yeah, but you just don't see them. Whereas like Fiestas and the Escorts, you see for some reason people tend to look after them a bit more. Chevette's nothing to write home about in terms of the way to drive. Apart from the HSR, which is unbelievable, that's something else entirely. But the standard Chevette, not the nicest car to drive really. They're a bit sort of ponderous.
Yeah.
I don't know what someone's done in this lime green one. It was modified. I don't know if he's thrown the engine away, put something else in. That's what a lot of people do.
What's
With
the
Chevettes.
Lancer engine in it?
Yeah, you could put a Pinto engine into it.
Put a Pinto engine in it.
Yeah.
I have seen a few done over the years where they put Omega engines in them.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Because obviously that's the same car as loads of other ones. The T-car platform, I mean, there's 20, 25 variants of that around the world, so they use all sorts of engines in them. Yeah, so what are the other sort of rare ones? You've got forthcoming kind of JQ and Omoda by Cherry Motors. We've got BYD, of course, Build Your Dreams. They don't put Build Your Dreams on the back of the CLU actually because in this country they thought that it was a bit naff. So they actually removed that from the back of them. If you've ever seen some of the old BYDs, the early ones say Build Your Dreams on the back. They've taken that off because they think it's a bit too much, which it probably is.
It is, yeah.
It's a bit too much. So the one that you'll see on the video of it, it just says BYD CLU DMI, which is the dual motor. The Aura Funky Cat, or Aura 03 it is now. I don't know if Great Wall Motors are planning on, bringing any other vehicles out. We've only got that one on sale at the moment. It's not a massive sell of the Funky Cat or 03.
I'm looking forward to seeing something like, a BYD stand at a car show or something like that to actually go and actually have a proper look around it and have a look and, when the salesman comes over and tries to flog me one, I'll give him all the reasons to why I don't want to buy it.
Yeah, I mean, the interior is sort of nice. It feels well made, but I can't think of a car. Think about maybe the Dolphin. I can't think of a car that would be less used, Mr. Coleman, than a BYD Dolphin.
No.
Absolutely not. I mean, I've got people I know who say I won't touch an electric car. I've got other people who say I won't touch an SUV, and everything in between. There's obviously things we don't talk about on the other channel, but everyone's got their sort of things. But Mr. Coleman's least favourite car of all is not the BYD Dolphin, it's the Ford Mustang Mach-E.
Yeah.
That we don't talk about on the Road Mechanic channel.
No, at all.
But then there's already the Ford Capri.
Ford Capri, the Mustang Mach-E, and anything with a Volkswagen badge on it.
Yeah, post 1990.
Post 1990.
Yeah, that's it. But the Capri. I wonder if I should actually drive that when it comes out, because I drove a Puma yesterday, and I won't say anything more about that. It was a facelifted one, and there are some changes of the over the old one, and then obviously the even older one was a better car than.
Well, the particular standout change
Yeah.
is going to be continued onto all of the other vehicles as well over the next 18 months.
What, the one that I found in the Puma?
Yes.
Because there's two very big changes.
Yes, because they've already got rid of that said change on the, well, it will be on the 2025 model range Ford F-150.
Oh, great.
Mm.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
I wasn't a fan. Also, there's something in common between the face of the Puma and an Austin Allegro Series 1. I'll leave the rest of you to actually
Yeah.
put that in the comments as to what you think that change is.
Mm.
But I'm not saying any more than that. Right, pulling out series is, were the Carltons assembled the same underneath? No, because the Carltons.
The Carlton is basically an Opel Record underneath.
We're talking all about the. We're talking about the first generation Carlton now.
All of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, all of them. The later Carltons had kind of a cross between a I can't remember. It might be a VF Commodore front end
That's it.
suspension kind of setup. And they said the original Carltons were basically an Opel Record.
Yeah, record. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Senator B's were basically a Holden Commodore with a straight six engine in it.
Yeah, it's interesting because variations of that platform continued, I think, to like much later in Australia, much later,
Yeah.
like 2002 or something.
Yeah,
It's
pretty much on Altus,
crazy.
but yeah, the differences between the Senator and the Carlton are huge.
Yeah, there's not too much changeability. I mean,
There's nothing.
the engine's sort of
The
similar.
engine,
2.6,
it's a 2.6 or a 3 litre, 3000 GSI. Yeah, they're all interchangeable, and that take one out of the Senator and vice versa and that. But as far as the chassis, it is the two cars are completely different.
Isn't that weird? That's why when we got the Amiga out, they sort of simplified a lot of things, didn't they?
Yeah, well, the Amiga has kind of got that. The Amiga has got its its own individual front chassis setup, whereas the rear of the Amiga is basically a 6-cylinder Carlton setup.
Yes, that's similar.
Yeah.
Right, here we go. This is started the thing here. Pretty much Blackpool, not a Mustang or Capri. Why not give it a name? Why call it a Puma? I don't know. But there's a rumour that the Fiesta replacement would be electric and also called the Fiesta. I kind of hope not, but who knows with Ford. Like, it's very strange. The Puma I drove yesterday, it was £34,000.
That's ridiculous.
It was the base engine with an automatic gearbox and the ST Line X trim and £4,000 of options. The one option which I say is essential in a Puma is the sunroof, because the interior is so dark,
Yeah.
like a lot of modern cars. The boot's very clever. Like, kind of, there's this little box underneath the floor that actually has a plug in the bottom,
Yeah.
and it's quite clever. You could put like ice or something there, or like, when I go diving and stuff, it might be useful for someone like me with all this wet kit and wetsuits and things. You put it in a box and smell your car out, and you can undo the plug and it drains out. So that's not a bad idea. It's relatively spacious, but the thing is, I just think you could just buy a KGM Tivoli for less money, which does virtually the same thing, but it doesn't drive quite as well as a Puma. I mean, they're all right to drive, but the changes, particularly the facelifted one, which I won't go into now, I'll let you to imagine what they are, they're just changes for the worse as far as I'm concerned. I spent ages trying to find the drive mode selector and couldn't find it, for example, and the other change, which is immediately obvious when you look inside it, I have no idea what they're on about in there.
That is going to become a particular pain after thinking about it when the car's had its windscreen replaced.
Oh dear, sir, that's not very good, is
Because
it?
that's going to have to pay a visit to Ford to be recalibrated.
Oh, lovely.
Mm.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, and I wonder if Ford sales are sort of like that. I wonder what it will eventually replace a Puma as a best-selling car. I don't know. We'll have to sort of see. The
Probably that BYD tuna fish or whatever.
could be a dolphin or something, or a
Yeah,
seal,
that's it,
or a seagull, which is the new one. The Corsa for some reason not doing well either. That's slipped right out of the top 10. I don't know why. It's maybe all those wet belt engines that are going wrong. I don't know. Those PureTech wet belt engines, sir.
They're better than the EcoBoost engine.
EcoBoom. Anyway, Richard Mark says, why did Ford use the same name to be different style cars? I have no idea.
I think it's just to try and it's a marketing ploy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Look, we produced a Capri back in the 80s and 70s. It was great. It's the car you've always promised yourself. Here, have a battery powered one that looks nothing like a Capri.
The thing is, the name's been out since 1986.
Yeah.
And like most people who remember the Capri are on the older side. They're people over 40.
Yeah.
So I don't know who they're trying to appeal to. Now, I think the car looks alright. Like Puma, I think for a modern car doesn't look too bad. I think it looks fine. It's not a patch on the original one or anything, but for a modern car, like there's so many cars that I don't like the look of in modern ones. So I think the Hyundai Tucson's particularly ugly. I like it as a car. It's quite a good car, like better than a lot of the other cars out there. But I don't like the styling of it.
No.
I don't like the styling, for example, of the Kia EV6. I don't like the look of it. And again, I'm sure it's a Kia, so it'll be a good car. But I'm not even sure about the. I drove the facelift Picanto yesterday, and although that car is a good car, I don't like the front end of it. The previous front end was better. So I don't know what it is, this sort of trend to make cars worse. Like the facelift Puma is worse. The facelift Picanto, in terms of styling, I think is worse. I think the interior is better, but I think the styling on the exterior is worse. It's just a strange thing. And then to sort of prove these names back, which they think will help them sell, I don't know. I don't really understand that. Anyway, Julie Knott says, good evening, everyone. Sorry I'm late, no problem, sir. Paulie Gaucho says, the new Ford models make the frog-eyed Scorpio a generally nice looking car.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Facelifted ones weren't bad for the frog-eye, but the thing about that is the frog-eye lasted less than the facelift was like a year before the end or something. I don't even know why we bothered with that.
It was less than 25,000 frog eyes built altogether. You can tell many.
They're not actually that bad to drive. Actually, quite nice. They're a nice car to drive. It's just the styling. The
thing is though, again asking whether like the Senators and the Carltons are the same. Really, the saloon and the estates of them couldn't be different. Could not be more different.
Yeah, because the estate's very similar to a Mark III Granada.
Yeah, and a Sierra, and all the chassis is completely different. Like the estate weirdly is on 4 stud wheels, where the saloon is on 5 stud wheels. It's got completely different chassis setup underneath. The saloons drive far better than what the estates do. Handling, power, everything. And I've always had a bit of a sort of, I've never liked them when they first come out, but now that there's not many left, and My Sports disposed of an awful lot of them over the last 10 or 15 years.
Yeah, they're like kind of like they're rear-wheel drive.
Yeah.
A lot of them with V6 engines, and you get manuals.
Yeah.
It's the sort of thing you want on a track, isn't it?
Yeah, and they're great for it. It's it is what it is. But they are growing on me, and particularly the later facelift ones that hasn't got a 24 valve engine in it, or wants a 12 valve.
There's just so few left though. I think it's less than 120 Scorpios of all types left now.
Yeah, there's not many.
There's not many because
we had the last
Ultima, wasn't it?
It was the last Ultima diesel automatic estate.
Yeah, that's why I can't talk about it, sir.
You reviewed it.
I was young and foolish. Peter Winters Blackpool says most cars now seem to look like vans with more windows. Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, I think about most of what is out there to drive, even like Lotus Electros like that. It's a shame. I was going to have a go in Lotus yesterday. I was going to have a go in a Mirror, but the weather was quite bad yesterday. You'll see in like the videos, particularly the ones I filmed towards the end, the MG ZS and the Picanto, weather is just appalling in both of those. It's so bad that like the ZS, you can hardly hear what I'm saying when I'm driving. and there's
Rain
nothing,
lashing
there's
on the
nothing I
screen.
can do about it. I make this terrible joke at the end about like the fact the car says I'm going 61 miles an hour. In fact, I'm going to prison. You can't hear my terrible joke, so that's probably a good thing, though. But yeah, all the stuff that was coming out, it doesn't matter what it is, even like Lamborghini, like there are certain trends in the market, and for some reason they've decided that people want SUVs. Like I was just having a look earlier on for a client who's asked me to find a replacement for her 14-year-old Citroen Zara Picasso, from the very last Picassos, and it's the second one she's had. She's had Picassos for 12 years, and Mr. Coleman's not very fond of those particularly. They're not worth anything in Picasso anyway. Like they're going to come a time when people wonder what it went, but at the moment not worth anything. And you know this one's just proving a little bit expensive, so she wants another one, and she very much wants.
That's the only reason why I like Picassos.
What's that?
Because they're expensive to fix.
All right, sir. You like money. This one still has the trolley in it. Apparently, I'm going to say to her when she gets rid of the car to keep the trolley thing, because the trolley thing's probably actually worth something. But yeah, so she said I want really like a Ford Puma or you know, an MGZS or something like that. I said, well, okay. Do you not want like an Astra Estate? No, I don't want one of those.
Yeah.
I think you're like, well, if it were me personally, that's probably what I'd recommend. But you know, this is what they want. She says I want you know, like I want grey, white, or black. I was like, well, that's not going to be a problem really, because you know, that's the most common colours. Yeah. So that's what she wants, and so it's fine. Like there's some pretty decent cars in that class. I mean, the S-Cross and the Vitara spring straight to mind as cars that are very easy to recommend. Even the Samuel Tivoli's easy to recommend really. And I've found one, but it's a base model, so I don't really think she'll want that. But it's just the way that people's perceptions of what they want. It's a funny thing.
Yeah.
That's a good question for you here, sir. Does Mr. Coleman like any of the big French saloons, like the... Actually, no, those aren't saloons. There's a hatchback 25 in the XM.
Yes.
605.
I know where it's coming from. I've owned all three. Renault 25, rubbish. Citroen XM, fantastic. Peugeot 605 V6, fantastic.
I really want to drive a nice 605, sir, but they just don't exist.
No, they just don't exist anymore. Mine was a really early one, and it was like a nasty salmon pink colour.
Oh, I never mind.
Yeah, and it was 3 litre manual V6, went like stink.
Like the one in Ronin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, because there was a 605 in, I think they were right at the end, weren't they? Yeah, but about 98 was when they stopped making them.
Yeah.
And Ronin came out in 98. And there were a couple of 605s in there, and you can hear the V6s screaming away.
Yeah,
There's a couple of XMs as well.
Nice.
They deliberately had some V6 XMs and 605s in there, and they look great actually, all those in that film. It's an enjoyable watch, that film. The plot's not the best really in
I
Ronin.
haven't watched Ronin for years. I need to sit and watch that actually.
Yeah. The plot's not the best. It's got some nice cars in it. You don't even ever find out at the end what's in the briefcase. No, that's not even important. It's just loads of people chasing after a suitcase.
Yeah.
And John Frankenheimer just having fun with... The most unusual car in there is this big old Mercedes-Benz W116.
Yeah.
It's the 6.9 litre V8. And I think Jean Renault who fires a rocket... Jean Renault. He fires a rocket launcher out the top of it.
Yeah.
Or is it it's one of the two, but they're both in the car.
I need to sit and watch that. I haven't watched it for years.
He fires a rocket launcher out the sunroof of the Mercedes during the chase. It's utterly stupid. It's insane. And then Robert De Niro, I think it is, drives the 406 V6 manual for the streets of Paris like he's a crazy man. Yeah, it's a decent film, but I don't know really like kind of whether anything else other than the chase sequences is that good. It's all right. Yeah, it's all right, I suppose. I knew this was coming at some point. Richard Mark says, "What's your opinion of the pay per mile system being talked about from the government?" I don't really have anything to say about it at the moment. I need to actually look into this a little bit more before I say anything proper. I know like Mr. Hunter from Jeff Buys Cars channel is starting to make videos about this, but I don't really know enough about this to be able to say whether or not this is something that we should be really concerned about, or something not.
I'm not getting overly worried about it.
Yeah.
And besides that, it's that particular party that I don't agree with. So I'm not saying any more on it.
Yes, we don't like to get too political on this channel, apart from talking about the Mayor of London, who neither
Well,
of us.
he's one of them, isn't
Yes, Mr. Coleman had an experience with Transport for London recently. I won't tell you what happened exactly. It was all resolved in the end, but it was
Yeah.
not very pleasant.
he? It wasn't very pleasant, and it was sorted in the end. But basically, the Transport for London and their ULEZ systems, if you want to call it that, only update themselves once a month. And the Granada was at its 41st anniversary back in March, so I did the correct thing and sent the logbook off and got it transferred onto historic vehicle. And I went and seen a friend of mine in April who lives in Richmond in the Granada. Great, I can get in, no Lule's charge. You know, Mr. Khan can go and
Do one.
yeah,
Mhm.
and I got a fine, and I fought it and I fought it and I fought it, and basically they admitted fault in the end, saying, "Oh yes, you know, when did your car become, you know, what was its date?" And I said, "I think I got everything back on, you know, like the 12th of March or whatever it was, and I got fined on the 9th of April." And yeah, oh yeah, our systems don't update. You know, with the older vehicles, that they seem to update themselves once a month. What a load of crap.
Yeah, well, at least your car's compliant now.
Well, I went down a couple of weeks ago before I was poorly, and I haven't had a fine yet.
So you're right then.
Yeah.
You know, you can with something like that, or the classic one seems to be like either a pre-84 Mini or the big one at the moment is an MGB, because all of those are compliant. You
Yeah.
can pick them up for not an awful lot of not a lot of money, and yeah, that's what some people are doing. And I think you are even congestion charge exempt as well. I think you're both in one of those. So you can totally beat the system in something like the Granada if you want to.
Yeah.
Some people are doing that. There's a point here, but Cycle 63 says Paul Callum makes a point when previewing cars at Manor Block Classics. Why have an expensive lease contract when there's so many good usable classics? The thing is, it's very different running a classic car on a daily basis. Mr. Coleman knows this because that's what he does and he's done it for years. You have to be quite handy when doing it. It's not the sort of thing you could just sort of go to Halford's Auto Centre and say, just put a new gearbox in for me. You can't do that a lot of the older
No, and
cars.
it's purely because using that as a point, because they haven't got any experience in working on the old cars,
No.
because they don't have to. They're not able to use their eyes. They're not able to use their ears. They haven't got the experience because all they want to do is just plug it in, get some fault codes out of it, and then go to service data. Oh, it needs a crank sensor. It wants the timing chain replacing. It just wants an oil change. They can't do that anymore.
No, I mean, a lot of cars are simpler. The Sunny's a simple job. I mean, like actually putting the engine in that is a lot simpler than most modern cars. For example, but
Provided the body mounts come undone, I'm really dreading that.
I hope everything will be all right. But I found with the ones I've owned over the last few years is they make sense up to a point, but a lot of the time you suddenly realise that actually they need quite a lot of stuff spending on it to keep them going and on a daily basis, and often that's a lot of money than the car's worth. The 460 was a case in point. Like actually it was all right. It wasn't too bad, but we knew that actually at some point it would need other things. Like the engine mounts were going to be a big thing to do on it, and the battery dashboard was nothing we could really do about it. Eventually my lady said, I don't like this. And I would have kept it a bit longer, but she just didn't like it, which was a shame, actually, because I liked driving around in a car that was that sort of age. It was all right. Once it loosened up a bit, which it did eventually, it was sort of okay. But Rattly Dash was a bit of a pain when taking people out who weren't like familiar with cars like that. They thought the whole car's going to die on you, but it wasn't going to. But it sort of had this sort of thing which kept it going. But if you want it in a decent state, you've got to pay a lot more money. You've got to do a KGF Classic or something like that. And they want, for a decent one, they want $6,000, and no one pays $6,000 for a 460, like any of them. So you have to do something like that. So you can. It's just like it's not necessarily practical. That's why we've got something like the S40, which just kind of keeps going. It's been it today, and it's going to go to the event tomorrow because Sunny's not ready yet, and that'll be fine. Like it'll park up in there, and I won't think about it. and that's turned out to be all right. Although even on that, like the wiring stuff's been a bit of a problem. That's been a really bit of a pain.
We'll have some more faults with the wiring on it eventually.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, like, you know, I didn't pay tons of money for it, and you know, it's still in the club, and people like seeing it at all the club shows and things. But yeah, the last thing here, Polyguard Series says, did you spot the continuity errors in Ronin, the switch between the XLs
Loads.
earlier to later? Yeah, you can see different bits of damage sometimes in them.
Yeah, there's I have memories of that clocking. An E23 7 series gets smashed up about 3 different times.
Yeah, it's like in the Chase and Bullet, where the same Volkswagen Beetle appears. I think it's 4 times. It's the same green Beetle as in it,
Yeah.
all the way through. I presume the production owned it or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just always the same in film car chases. There are always sort of continuity bits. At one point in Ronin, you can see it's raining and then it's not raining and things like that because it's filmed in 2 completely different days.
One of the biggest continuity errors for me I've ever seen was the Life on Mars spin-off, Ashes to Ashes.
What was this? Probably that.
Obviously it's set in the 80s, mid-80s, and they've got Mark II Granada 2.8 Sport, and they pull up to a crime scene and park right next to an S-Reg Rover 600.
Yeah, the Rover 600, apparently, they were filming in City of London on a Sunday because it's very quiet in City of London on a Sunday. And they had just cleared everything out. And next thing they know, this Rover 600 turns up and parks in their space. And they either stop the filming and wait for someone to come back and move the car, or they film, and they decided to keep going. Because that literally came in the sort of shot. But you're absolutely right. There is a Rover 600 in it, and it's a pretty big continuity error. And then there's other continuity errors as well. For example, the Cortina that's used in Life on Mars is in 1974, and that's set in 73. The Allegro police cars are Series 2 Allegro police cars, which would have existed until I think 75. The Series 2 came out. There's loads of things like that actually are happening. And then the biggest one that everybody will know about Life on Mars is that the right-hand drive Quattros were not available until 1983.
Yeah.
And the one that's in the series should be a left-hand drive one, but it's not.
It's not.
I think they use 3 different cars in that, from what I can remember. These were like 3 different ones.
I like watching Life on Mars when it comes on repeat. I've got it on DVD, but the Ashes to Ashes, I watched it when it came out, and yeah, it was good, but not as good as Life on Mars.
It's a very different feel, I think, to Life on Mars. It's a very different feel. I mean, the sort of period's different, and the cars are different, and fashion's different, and things like that.
Yeah.
It is very much like watching the Sweeney almost, because a lot of the cars are sort of similar in it, whereas Ashes to Ashes is like watching, it's like watching a sort of very episode of Dempsey and Makepeace. It's kind of that sort of thing. But anyway, that's in another time. If I can just see the time has sort of run over, and I'm concerned about the battery on the thing we're using to stream. So that's it. Thank you ever so much indeed once again for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, leave a comment below, and we shall see you again at some point for some more strange live streams.
Yes.
Good night.